Hey guys, welcome back to Build Like a Nerd. In a nutshell, the Build Like a Nerd series is an in-depth tutorial that balances historical accuracy with what is actually realistically achievable in the game. Today we are going to build a Second Empire Victorian home in Newcrest. The end product will be base game only, but as always I will point out good items from other packs as we come across them. This is a pretty large style, so grab a 30 by 30 lot or larger and let's get into the history of this gorgeous, gorgeous style. The Second Empire, or Mansard, or French Second Empire, or Napoleon III, or General Grant style began in 1852 during the French Second Empire. It reached its peak in popularity in the United States between 1855 and 1885, making it one of the older Victorian styles we see in the States. Under the direction of Emperor Napoleon III, much of Paris was rebuilt to replace medieval buildings and infrastructure. Many of these new buildings, including the expansion of the Louvre, were roofed with the double-sloped four-sided gambrel design of Francois Mansard. But more about roofs in a minute. This French style was extremely influential across Europe and in the States. We are of course focusing on the United States Victorian era home today, but here are some super cool pictures of France. This is also a good time to remind you to let me know what other styles you want to see in this series. Every suggestion I get goes on a list. It is a very long list and I can't promise when I will be able to build what, but I can promise they all get put on there. Also check the linked Pinterest board for all my references and dozens more pictures I couldn't fit in the video. These large homes have been compared to wedding cakes with how grand and elaborate they could be. I can't recommend eating one though, as the primary building materials are wood and brick with some cut stone decorative elements. You probably have already seen the main identifying factor though, the roof. These steep roofs are traditionally slate and many have a decorative pattern or layout to them beyond normal rectangles. It is worth noting that Second Empire homes built in the Pacific Northwest usually have wooden shingles, so if you live in that area you may be used to seeing a different shingle texture. The sides of the roof can be straight or have a concave, convex, or even S-shaped curve. The top of the roof may be slightly sloped or completely flat, and finished with roofing materials or utilized as a deck for the residents. When dormers are present, they are generally narrow, and you may even see a tower here and there. It gained popularity as a roof style in the United States after the Civil War and can be found on many government buildings built around that time. Since Ulysses S. Grant was president at the time, you may occasionally hear the style referred to as General Grant style. Its biggest advantage is the extra space, as it is more of a full story than an attic, and the main disadvantage is the cost of maintaining the steep, often curved surface. The eaves are generally overhanging, although you rarely see that in the game. I will show you how, of course, but with the way eaves work in The Sims 4, it's generally easier to cheat it a little with some freezes. Similar to the Italianate Victorian style, Second Empire homes usually have a boxy symmetrical form. Symmetry is not necessary, but it is most common. Decorative brackets, friezes, hoods, and trims are of course a necessity. You will also often see cornices, iron cresting, coins, and balustrades. 2/2 or 1/1 windows are usually in singles, pair, or bay windows with decorative frames and hoods, and may even be framed by columns or pilasters for some extra grandeur. Usually wooden homes have more decorative elements than brick, since brick homes were more expensive to build in general, but that's why we have Motherlode. The wide front door is never a guessing game, with the projecting pavilion calling all the attention. If you didn't figure it out already, this style was generally for the affluent homeowners who wanted to mix and match a little of the best from France, the US, and other European and historical influences. Building slowed down dramatically in the economic depression of 1873, but newer buildings have maintained some of the same elements. As far as where to build, any American world would be appropriate. Technically, Willow Creek and Newcrest are supposed to be based on New Orleans, and the Second Empire wasn't as popular in the American South as northern states, but that little fact didn't stop EA, so why should it stop us? Because the base of most of these homes is some sort of box, whether it's a square or rectangle, we are going to start with a 14 by 18 tile rectangle. 14 tiles this way, and 18 tiles this way. Don't worry about centering it, we'll fix that in a second. Once that's placed, you can change your lighting if you forgot to do that already, and we are going to have this be a medium wall height wall. Now, if these homes were asymmetrical, it was usually in some sort of L formation, like you'll have some bay windows or whatever, but it's not a ton of ins and outs. I'm going to add just a little bit over on this side. I'm going to go out 4 tiles and up 9, and since this wall will not be used in the final floor plan, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it. I'm going to grab this custom room tool, go in 2 tiles, and make a little bay window area here, and the same on this side. And then grab my room tool and make a 2x4 little box here. This will be our centered front entry. Once again, none of these walls are actually going to be used in the end, so I'm going to hold my control key and just get rid of those. Though I do need to move my house back a little bit so that I can add a little front deck. Now you could do a full front deck. I'm just going to do a small one and then raise the house about that far. If you choose to do a 2-story build with a tower, you'll end up with 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. If you decide to continue following along with me and do a 3-story build, you'll end up with a 10-bedroom, 5-bath home. Not everyone wants a house that's quite that big, so if you want to skip that additional 5 bedrooms, don't add this story. This will also be a medium wall height. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish up the tower. I'm actually going to make it 5 tiles deep, just with the way that the roofing ended up working out. This is best, roofing and stairs and whatever. This wall will be short. This one, if you want to go for the slightly shorter house, I would also leave short. However, I'm doing the full thing, so I'm going to put it up to medium. Now for the rest of the attic, I'm going to take my custom room tool and I'm going to draw 2 tiles in all the way around. Next up, we'll add some dormers. Usually the dormers are quite narrow, so we're just going to do 1 tile wide like so. And assuming that you actually want your Sims to have some sunlight, we are going to place quite a few around here. This is where I am placing mine, and I'm also going to go in and remove these walls because we're not keeping any of them for the floor plan. One interesting thing about the floor plans for the Second Empire homes was it was really hard to find them. Most of what I found looked very similar to the Italianate style, which was mentioned in the articles I was reading. But overall, since this style really promoted mix and match and pick what you like and sort of put it all together into this beautiful house, it makes sense that there's not a super set layout. However, there are a heckin' ton of rooms because it's a heckin' huge house. We're going to start with a separated entry. That was something I saw in pretty much all of them. And I'm going to have symmetrical sitting rooms on either side. Next up over here, I'm going to add an office. So this is 4 tiles deep and 5 tiles wide. This is going to be a bathroom, and I'm going to put a couple of closets here, and we're actually going to have a bedroom on the main floor. You don't see that often in Victorian style homes, but I found it was really common in the handful of Second Empire specific floor plans I was able to find. The kitchen is going to go in this back corner, and I wanted to add a pantry, so I'm going to do that here, and then extend this wall over to match up with our office. This wall, just pretend that it keeps going, we'll split the kitchen and the dining room. And then this area right here, I actually added a half bath. Now I'm gonna grab some stairs. It really doesn't matter what stairs you grab to begin with because you're gonna place them easily later. I'm gonna take the stairs, I'm actually going to make them 2 tiles wide because I can. And I'm gonna take this and rotate it to my right so that when I move them into the house, it fits nice and snug right there. Now, if you decided to add the second story, we will do that floor plan next. Once again, I'm just going to start at the front here. So I'm going to do a little 4x4 room here in the tower. I didn't come up with a specific plan for that room. I was just like, this seems like a good place to put walls. It could be a secondary study. It could be a room specifically for the kids. It could be another bathroom. It could be a nursery. Now this room, I actually need to extend 1 tile there, and then I'm going to go over 1 tile here and push this all the way back and add another room here. Then I'm going to cut in 1 tile and just draw straight across and split this into 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and then this I thought would make a nice Jack and Jill bathroom. So overall on this floor now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1 bonus room, and a very nice hallway. And I'm going to put some stairs right here and up to the attic. So in the attic, the first thing I did was add another bathroom for all of these bedrooms, which is going to be right here. We can extend this here. So this bedroom will get 2 windows, pull this wall over to here so that this bedroom gets 2 windows, and then this wall we're going to pull down and across like so, and split again. I need stairs again. There we go. And that will lead into the tower here, which just has a nice open space, and when we get into the roofing, we can decide if this tower is going to lead out to a balcony or not. Let's consider fireplace placement first, as long as we're taking a look at the floor plan. Because it is so common for these homes to be brick, grabbing a brick fireplace would totally be reasonable. This one would be a really nice fireplace for the space as well from Parenthood, or this one perhaps from Growing Together. I found that almost anything from Luxury Party or Vampires also goes pretty well with this style, but again, for base game purposes, I'm just going to stick with this. Most of the fireplaces are along exterior walls, however, they could be also not against an exterior wall, so for whatever reason you're like, man, this fireplace would look so much better on an interior wall. You can do that, it's just not as common. And there would be another fireplace here in the kitchen for cooking. However, we don't really do that anymore, so you could definitely add like a wood stove just for vibes, and that would be super duper cool. Or you could leave in a really big fireplace that you would actually, oh, not that one, that has a stove in it. There we go. You could leave in a big fireplace that you could reasonably cook in, or you could just put a stove on that wall, which is what we are going to do today. I am also going to add some fireplaces to bedrooms, so I'm just going to put these fireplaces pretty much matching up with the fireplaces down below them, or as close as I can reasonably get anyway. We have big enough rooms, it'll be fine. I'm sure it's not a fire hazard. Upstairs, we don't have as much space for fireplaces, so I think I'm just gonna put them in these 2 rooms here, or maybe one there. So this is where I'm going to be putting my fireplaces in the attic, the second story, and the first story. I also forgot to add a deck off the kitchen. I am so embarrassed. We're just going to add just a little guy. You could definitely add a larger deck with like a pool or something if you wanted to. However, by the time we get through all the roofing and everything, I'm not going to have spoons for landscaping. So we're just going to focus on the front yard with landscaping today, and you can do whatever the heck you want in the backyard. How does that sound? I think that's a pretty sweet deal. And I'm going to add stairs here. They could be the entire width of the front platform, especially if it is a little bit more narrow like these are. Now is the time to start thinking about what your construction materials would be, because I will be referencing that a few times. The most common was wood, followed very closely by brick. I don't know which one I'm going with yet, so I'll probably just go with a brick foundation. I'm also probably going to go with white windows today, but if you feel like you want to go with colorful windows, this is a great opportunity to experiment with that. We're not 2 windows yet, but I liked my trims and windows and all that stuff to all match, so that's what I'm going with. And if you decide to go with one of the base game bricks for your foundation, you can actually grab the brickery here and paint that on your stairs, and then they'll match. So next up, we're going to talk about friezes and floor trims. So when you're looking at a lot of these homes, you can see that they have a lot of supports under the roof. Of course, we do have these in game, so if you really felt like it, you could go through and just place a bunch of them. What I would recommend doing is grab one of the friezes that looks like it has the supports on them, like this one, the Frieze Spirit. Once again, the vampires have a couple of really nice options that you could use that still has that little bit of detail on the bottom that we're looking for. I'm just going to be sticking with Frieze Spirit, and I'm going to place that all around the edge of the top of my second story. So whatever floor is below your attic, that's where you want to place this. I'm also going to place it at the top of my tower. Now I'm not going to place it here because that's going to shorten my tower and split it in half, and it has no business doing that. So that's the frieze. Next, we're going to talk about the roof, and hold on to your socks, people, because boy howdy do we have options. First of all, technically the Second Empire does have eaves. However, eaves can be a bit of a pain to deal with, and I'll give you a demonstration now. So you can see that just the raw edges of the roof are kind of ugly. We don't like that. However, if we pull the eaves down, it clips right on through our frieze. That's no good. And of course, the whole charm of the Second Empire is having a steep roof. So if you pitch this down like this, that's no good either. You can, of course, layer. There are a few ways to get eaves. I'll go over that in a second. But if you decided that it's too much for you, you can grab a smoother roof trim to try and make a more seamless transition. You can put a platform under the roof like so, and then grab a platform trim, which is of course down here. So that will also hide the edges of your roof. But what if you do want eaves because you're a historical little nerd like me? Well, we have 2 options. So option 1 is just stacking roof pieces. I'm going to pull these out twice, pitch this all the way down, and there you go. Now you can play chicken with the frieze a little bit, go back and forth until you get it to just barely not be clipping through. Now the reason you may want to do that is so that you have a slightly more seamless transition between your 2 roof pieces, because the next step is to copy and place this exact same roof piece, push the eaves in, and pitch it up, and there you go. I will be using this. However, I'll also be using this method, where I'm going to actually move this roof piece out 1 tile away from the main part of my build like so, and I'm actually going to be using the curving controls. So I'm going to press Shift-C to get extra curving controls. So I'm going to pull this front one all the way down so that I get that part of the curve right, and then I'm going to adjust this one so that I can get it a little bit more straight, and there's another way to get a very similar look. Now the issue with this currently is that it's way too tall, and if you didn't already know, actually let me demonstrate this clearly. If your walls are too tall on the roof, then they will clip through. That's no good, so we can fix this by pitching it down. Now, if we look at the pictures of the Mansard style roofs, usually the dormers are sort of like in the middle of the roof. Like there's a lot of roof above them. If you don't care about that so much and you just want to get this roofed as painlessly as possible, grab a hipped roof piece, which is one of these guys, and you're going to take this, you're going to pitch it down darn near all the way, if not all the way, and you're just going to use this to cover everything. You're going to cover the whole top part of your roof. Really the only downside to finishing off the roof with this method is then the dormers just look a little bit too tall compared to the rest of the build. Oh, and yes, of course you could go through and like use these dormers instead. That's totally fine. I prefer to not use them because I like having actual windows going into my actual attic with actual usable space. But if that's just not your cup of tea and you're like, no, I'd rather just skip the attic altogether, who needs that space, and you want to use these dormers instead, go for it. The university ones will work really well for this. So yes, this is an option for the top. The other option is a platform, which would overall raise the roof. Now I know what you're thinking, but we were just there, and when we raise the roof, it makes the inside walls a funny color. How are we going to get around that? Super duper sneakily. So what we're actually going to do is push this back so that it is 1 tile away from the rest of our build, and use our eaves to extend it to be back to that height. And now when you look at it from the inside, there's a little bit of a gap, but it's not actually messing with any of your walls. Use this power wisely. All right, so now it's time for me to roof this for real for real. So I'm going to take my platform tool and I'm just going to draw some platforms in. I'm not putting platforms on the dormers. That is very, very important. I'm only putting platforms in the middle of the air, apparently. Only putting platforms on our sort of main area here. And if we click on it, that should all be one room. I'm going to raise this up until the top of the platform is about the height above the dormers that I want the roof to end up being. I'm also wondering if I want this tower to be tall walls instead. I don't know. We'll make the final decision once we get the roof on, because that might play with our idea of perspective and scale, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to start with my half-hipped roof piece, make sure that hipped portion is facing out. I'm going to push this back so that it's one tile away from my house, which is why we have the 2 tile gap here. I'm going to pull this over so it'll line up right with that corner. And I'm going to use this arrow to extend these eaves twice, then this arrow to adjust the pitch so the top of my roof hits about where my platform is. If anything, I want it a little bit below. Now is also the point where I decide if I want a curve on this roof piece or not. You can adjust the curve by using these little balls here. And of course, if you want more curving controls, you can press Shift C on your keyboard. The outer ball controls sort of the bottom part of the curve of the roof, and the inner one controls the top. So our curving shape options are to do some sort of S curve here. We could do a concave curve like so, a convex curve, or just leave it straight. Whatever you do though, you want to start with this piece so that when you copy and rotate and place it on the next portion of your roof, it's going to line up perfectly. Look at that corner. Delicious. Put down a couple pieces, figure out if you actually like that shape for your roof or not. So now we're just going to keep copying and placing this roof piece all the way around, basically just following the outer edge. But you'll notice this one is overlapping with my house a little bit. That's because if I just put it here, we're going to have this gap. We don't want that gap. So we are going to go ahead and pull it in. This might cause a little bit of an issue here. However, I will of course show you how to fix it. So if you'd rather not have these little roof corners clipping in, that's totally understandable. We're going to push these back so that they're not clipping in, and then grab a half gabled roof piece. Now this I'm going to line up so that it is of course once again 1 tile away. So what I'm going to do is extend the eaves this way, and I'm going to pull this lower eave in by holding Shift on my keyboard. So that eave will be gone, and this eave we want to extend twice. There we go. And now what I want to do is very, very carefully with Shift C, match the curve of my roof here, so you can see where this starts to get a little tricky, and match the height of it. That might be about as close as I'm going to get this one. If I hold Alt, I can also adjust the height a little bit more precisely. That will take care of that corner, and I can copy, rotate, and place it here, and take care of that corner. So it's up to you. Pick your battles. This would be a perfect match if you decided to just leave these roof pieces straight and not curved though. Then you wouldn't have to mess with the curves and you could have skipped the whole last 60 seconds or whatever. I don't mind the roof clipping in a little bit personally. Specifically in this configuration, it's not actually going to interfere with my gameplay. It's not going to affect any of my walls. And I like the bit of a curve that it has, so I'm going to keep that. But now you know how to fix it if you don't like it. And just a couple more roof pieces. Grab some platform trim. I like using this one. Once again, I'm going to go with the white and grab that. So that's just a nice little cap. And I'm going to grab a little decorative fence. Pretty much any iron fence will work. However, we're kind of limited in just the base game. So I'm going to use this little curved iron fence because it is adorable. On to the tower roof. I'm going to do something a little bit different on this one. This is where I'm actually going to take that half-hipped roof piece and extend it 1 tile out from the build so that the base of the roof without eaves is still covering our frieze. I'm going to bring it out, make sure it's just 1 tile wide, and then this is going to be the base of my roof. Now I do still need a platform here because I want the top of this roof to be flat as well. So I'm going to raise up my platform. Now if you can't get your platform to go as tall as you want it, you can just reset this level to be tall wall height. You can't actually place walls on this level, but it will let you place taller half walls and taller platforms. I don't need it to be quite that big. I think that'll be fine. So now I'll extend this eave twice, like so. Once again, I'm going to press Shift C to get this curved down and this curved down just a little bit. And then I'll pitch it up. I think that looks good. And copy, rotate, and place this all the way around, being careful to make sure that that green box stays 1 tile away from the edge of my platform. So there's my fence. Watch what happens if I get rid of these eaves and bring the whole roof over instead. wherever that green line hits, my fence will be deleted. That is super incredibly annoying. So that is why we have the little green box, the walls of the roof, 1 tile away from our fence, because it's on the same level. It doesn't matter for this fence because this and this are on 2 different levels, but it matters for the interior walls. So we basically did the same thing for 2 different reasons. Multitasking. I'm going to grab the same trim, and I think that is just delightful. Of course, we are still not done. We still have to figure out what the heck we are doing with these dormers. On most of the pictures that you've seen, they have a curved roof, like those roof decorations we were just looking at. However, if you make a roof 1 tile wide, you literally cannot curve it. The game will not let you. Another thing you can't do on just 1 tile is get the texture to show up properly. Here's some nice bricks. Oh, that's not nice bricks. That's disgusting. I'm going to go with the half-hipped roof piece again. That might be the only roof piece used in this entire video. Now we're going to want eaves, and that's kind of boring. So what we're actually going to do instead is we're going to grab a flat square and we're going to bring this down so that it's 2 tile by 1 tile, which is the size of our dormer. We're going to copy it, place it on top of our dormer, and then grab a floor trim. Now we don't have any floor trims that have like the same supports as our frieze here. Oh my gosh, I didn't go through and do the layers for the eaves. So what I was supposed to do when I was doing all this was take a second roof piece, take this and pull these eaves in and pull these eaves out, and then we're gonna pitch it down and then do that all the way around. Sorry about that, guys. It's the exact same process though. Honestly, you probably already figured it out before I even recognized that there was something wrong. So I'm gonna take this and copy and rotate and place all the way around my build. And if you're wondering how I'm rotating it, I'm just using my comma and period keys. They rotate darn near anything in the game. So now that I know why I could actually still see the frieze so well, we don't have a floor trim that matches the frieze. That's fine. You can use any one of them. All we're really doing with this is trying to add a little bit more detail to the underside of my roof. I'm actually going to use the simple exterior trim. And now when I take this same roof piece and pitch it down a little bit, okay, a little bit more than a little bit, about there, we actually get a nice amount of detail on the underside of the roof there. And there we have some dormers. Yay! Let's see, is there anything else I'm forgetting? I am forgetting that since this roof piece is on the same level, I have to pull it back a tile, pull these eaves out. Alright, I think the octagons are the last bit of roofing we actually have to do here, which is super exciting for you guys, because then I won't forget anything anymore. So we're going to put that back here, grab our little eave arrow, which is so hard to see, pull it out twice, and we're going to pitch it down until our eaves line up with these eaves. Our roof trims line up, rather. And then we just copy and place the exact same roof piece over here. Let's just go ahead and throw shingles down while we're at it. Slate shingles are most common, of course, and usually I go with one of these if I'm going to go with a slate shingle texture. However, they may also be decorative, and at this point, all the original shingles have been replaced anyway. So I'm going to go with this one, and I think I'm going to make it maybe gold. You think that'll be a little too obnoxious? And I'm going to grab my beveled out roof trim. I think this is the best option. It's got some weight to it, but it's not going to cause as many bugs as the square roof trim, so I think it's a good compromise. And quick reminder to save your game. This would also be a good time to figure out exactly how tall you actually want that tower to be. Just gotta grab a quick roof piece for above the deck. You can keep the curve or you can straighten it out a little bit, whichever you prefer. I would probably bring this eave out just because it'll look better with columns, and I do plan on adding columns. Copy, rotate, and place over on the back. That's the easiest part of the entire video. Let's take a look at siding colors next. That sounds nice. Now you can use any brick or any horizontal siding, pretty much. Sometimes you might see stone, you might see vertical siding, you might see shingles, but by and large, horizontal wooden siding or bricks. And you can do whatever color you want. In the end, again, I'll be going with base scheme, but if you've been looking for an excuse to experiment with some of the colored bricks from, say, cottage living, this will be a fun time to do so. If you have growing together, they have really, really vibrant sidings. Just look at how bright that is and how good it looks. You can pull off any color with this. Unfortunately, in the base game, we don't really have any great options with stone on the outside corners. Like, we do have this one, but it's stucco, which you really wouldn't see. If you're breaking out into other packs and you want a little bit more detail on your build, something like this from Vampires that has that stone accent on the corner would be absolutely lovely. Or this one, which is again from Cottage Living. After hemming and hawing for about 1,000 years, I think I've decided on this for my colors today. I need to take advantage of being able to use fun colors sometimes, and yes, this is a fun color combo for me, okay? Looks like we're on to windows and doors. So because I actually thought ahead this time, I have a little wall saved with all of our window options, and I'm going to go through and discuss which ones I would use choose. Going down the line, this one is A Long Wait, Patient in Pastel, which is from For Rent expansion pack. Now this one I would consider because it has the lovely little columns on either side, which is very decorative. This would be a nice decorative option. Next up, we have this window, which is called Old Schoolhouse Window, which is from, guess what? Discovery University. This is an 8-pane window, which is entirely too many panes for the style. But the reason I brought it in is because it already comes with that decorative little roof above it, or hood, I think it's called, which most of the windows don't, and it's very difficult to add with the wall decorations and whatever. We'll talk about it in a minute. Now this one, again, has too many panes, but it has the right shape, it has the right detail, it's nice and tall, and it would fit on a more fancy version of this home. Oh, this is from Get Famous, by the way. Fancy words. This one, the double hung window, this is a 1/1, and this is a 2/2, so 1 pane over 1 pane, 2 panes over 2. Well, I guess technically this is a 4 pane. This would be more of a 2/2. My point is, this double hung window, believe it or not, the best probably of all the ones we've looked at so far. It's the right number of panes, it's the right shape, it's the right size. This one is also from Discovery University. It is called the Solid Education Window. This one I chose because it has that arch shape, and I wanted to point out that my arches here are smooth. We do not have the pointy arches. Do not do a pointy arch window on this build. It will completely mess with the style. This is also a base game window called Angel Wing. It has the arch, it has shutters, not necessarily necessary, and a little bit of detail above, so it's just nice. These two, the narrow Victorian window and the rectangular Victorian window, are both from Vampires. They're a little bit on the small side, but they could work really, really well for your dormer windows if you can tie them into your other windows with frame color. This one, again, right number of panes, nice and tall, nice and narrow, a little bit of decoration, Modern Ranch Life narrow window from the Horse Ranch pack. And finally, probably the best window, and the one that I would recommend using if you have city living, is called the upright window. You might think this is base game. It's not. We have a base game window right here, which is basically this window twice, but we don't actually have the single version of the window in the base game. That comes with city living. So I'm just going to use this window here, which will also be great to talk about placement. Obviously, we're going to be putting windows in our bay windows here. So I'm going to place those. And if you can't quite get it where you want it, try pressing F5. You can, of course, alt place windows, but it can be really hard sometimes to make sure it stays in the middle of the wall and that all of your windows are actually the exact same height. So instead, if you turn on F5, that allows for quarter tile placement. So with quarter tile placement off, you get here or here, but if we turn it on, we can place it right in between those two, which is usually the right spot. So obviously they'll be going on your bay windows and your dormers. Now on the rest of your walls, you'll find them either placed singly or double side by side. However, you're really not going to see them all lined up in a row of 3 like this unless it's a bay window. Now for these windows on the outside, I'm trying to kind of line them up with the dormer a little bit. However, I'll possibly move them around a little bit once I get a better look at the floor plan inside. Now we'll take a look from inside. Obviously the dormers we can't do anything about. Okay, so we have a fireplace here, so we're not going to be putting a window there. However, putting it on the other side of the fireplace would be pretty nice. So if I do that, what am I going to have to do for the rest of them? Obviously, I would love it if this was nice and symmetrical and everything, but with it being the back of the house, it might be more worth my time and effort to be concerned with the layout on the inside, and then I can worry about the front windows actually lining up and looking nice. All right, I think that works well for all of our bedrooms. No more fireplaces are being blocked, so that's great. Oh darn, there are fireplaces being interrupted over here. No big deal. Actually, this is going to be a bathroom. It doesn't really need a window. Yeah, that'll be fine. Okay. And then down here, this is going to be a sitting room. We probably don't need windows on the rest of this wall, honestly, because we have the fireplace. This is going to be a pantry, which you want to keep dark anyway. We don't need that floor anymore. This will be the kitchen, which will have windows and a door on this side. This is the dining room, which I do definitely want windows in. So we can put doubled up windows on either side of the fireplace for the dining room. This will be a nice little closet window. This we can do like so. And I think that's about all for there. Take one last look at the outside, see how silly it looks. I really like it when I can get the outside to look nice. However, it's not working super well on this one, and I think I would rather keep the inside the way I have it because I'm really happy with that and not worry so much about the windows, which is uncharacteristic of me. I understand that. Now for doors. For the front door, you want something big and grand and super duper fancy if you can get it within reason. So something like this, a nice wide front door with a couple of windows in it would be great. These are all Strangerville options. You always have my blessing to use Strangerville, except for the windows in this case because they have the pointy arch. Even this one's one's a little bit pointy, so don't use the pointy ones. I wouldn't recommend using something solid like this. I really would put some glass in it. So this librarian's door from Discover University might be a good option. And I'm actually going to use this one from the base game. I also want to take a look at columns. In some of the Victorian styles we've done, the columns have been like turned and painted and very decorative. Usually in the base game, we end up going with this one. But the columns that I was finding aren't as ornate. It seems like a lot of the ornamentation is on like the structure and not so much on the columns and fences, which I thought was very interesting. So if you do want a little bit of detail, one of these slightly detailed fences, like this one, or not fences, columns, you know what I'm saying, or this one, or maybe this one would work pretty well. So this is Cottage Living, Strangerville, and Get Together respectively. Those would work fine, but just a simple square column, like from the Get Together or Horse Ranch or Werewolves Pack would look really nice, or a simple round column. So for my base game today, I'm actually going to go with the Greco-Roman column. Just a nice, simple, round column. I'm not going to arrange it Greco-Roman-like because I don't want this to look like it's trying to be a neoclassical or something. And for fences, it was honestly pretty simple. Mostly just wooden board fences that I found. So usually we go with something with turned spindles and stuff. I didn't see much of that. I'm not saying you can't use it. Like, please do if you want to. But most of what I was seeing was much more simple. Something more like this. Or this. So I think I'm going to use that one. I'm going to put a little bit of paint on it just for a little bit of pizzazz, but overall pretty simple. We could also use a spandrel. Now here you want to find a balance because you could do something with some fanciness to it. That is totally acceptable, but you don't want to go too far in an Art Deco, Art Nouveau decoration, which we do have in some of these. You don't want to go too medieval with the stone, and you don't want to go too rustic like this one from Horse Ranch. So what would be a good option? So glad you asked. One of these base game spandrels is simple, but it has a little bit of detail. This base game one would work well, or this one. You could get away with the vampires one, or of course either of the options from Strangerville. You could possibly use this stained glass one from For Rent. It's interesting how many of the build items from that pack work really well for Victorians. Anyway, I'm going to go with this guy. I think it matches my fence. Pretty close. I want to use this for my walkway, but I have to make sure it's facing the right direction, which I will do by rotating it with my comma and period keys. I think I'm going to use the same texture for the deck as well. I actually like how that looks. And I'm going to switch out my steps so that they match a little bit better. Either wooden white steps, just a little bit higher quality step like that to match all the white wood that's happening, or I could bring in some brick or stone to match the other stuff. Let's talk about some other ways to add some detail to the exterior because it is very common to have a boatload of decorations. If you have a pack that does have these slightly more decorative curved dormers, you could definitely use some of those. Apparently it doesn't want to place, so you'll have to turn move objects on, which we haven't had to do yet. Actually, no, while I'm up here, we definitely need to grab chimneys because I will forget. I'm going to grab chimneys that match my foundation, and I'm going to place them on either side here, I think. I'm not concerned about making sure it's super duper accurate to where my fireplaces are because chimneys will converge within the walls and, you know, you're not going to have a single chimney for every single fireplace, especially when you have this many. So I think that that will be totally acceptable there. You could use some of these iron decorations like the roof vent from Vampires or this finial, which is from Strangerville, which, you know what, I'm just going to have to turn move objects on. So this could add a little bit more detail to your home. You can use 9 to raise, well, sometimes you can use 9 and 0 to raise it up and lower it to get it to place more properly. Not all the time, obviously, because that would be asking too much. But anyway, some iron detailing like that you could definitely add if you have the packs for it. But then as far as other decorations, aside from perhaps adding more of these corbels, such as in here, not a lot going for the base game here with decorations. You could also, if you wanted to, add columns around the corners. It's not necessarily a columns on the corner style build, it's usually more of a stone detail, but if you don't have the option of a stone detail, the columns can still bring in some of that same like, hey, this has been decorated and is super duper cool, some of that energy, you know? Once again, if you have packs other than the base game, this will be a little bit easier. Even if it's just a very simple, smooth stone, it would still look a little bit better than that Greco-Roman column. Now, of course, with these columns, if you decided to place them, you have the option of either extending it all the way up or placing it floor by floor. The benefit of doing floor by floor is that when you go down floors, they disappear as opposed to sticking up. The downside, though, is with some of the columns especially, this one's not too bad, but you can really see the gaps between them. So depends on what you're going for. I also forgot to mention you can totally paint these freezes if you want to. That'll make it look more detailed immediately. Oh, that's right. And then I wanted to go back into wall decorations because, once again, we do have some stone details that you can add along the corner of your build if you have Jungle Adventure. That has a lot of stone stuff happening. Some of it, you know, like the avocado glyph, maybe not so much, but it's an option. Also, if you have vines that you can climb up your build, that would be a great touch because these homes are very old, so they just often are more overgrown, like their gardens are very mature, so vines would be a great option. Other packs also have awnings that actually look like roof pieces, so if you really wanted some of that detail, if you're working from a reference image where the hoods of the windows are very prominent, you might want to bring something like that in. This one from Cottage Living is pretty cute as well, especially if you scale it down a couple times. So especially if you're just building with the base game, you will be on the more simple side of the style, which is totally fine. There's a lot of beauty and simplicity as well, but hopefully I've pointed out some items you can experiment with if you happen to have packs beyond just the base game, or, you know, custom content. All right, shall we move inside? So for the most part, for our floors, we're going to grab hardwood. Pretty much any hardwood that you fancy will work all right. You can do a lot of storytelling with flooring, which I talk about frequently, but this one is from Jungle Adventure. You can see it has like little nicks. It's a bit wider. It looks more worn and varied in tone. So this would be floors that maybe weren't as well maintained or just been around for a really long time. Or you could do slightly fancier flooring, like one of these patterns. Cleaner flooring will look newer. If you really like a shine to your floors, if you want to look nice and buffed, the basketball planks from City Living is so shiny. I think I might go with this one, even if you can see the lines. I just like the color best. If you prefer to have tiles in your kitchens and bathrooms, you can totally do that. You can do stone tiles, you can do more simple or vintage tile patterns. So really in general, I'd say you could probably use darn near any tile you want. I wouldn't go too modern. So this is a very contemporary design with the tile, so I probably wouldn't go with that one. I also would not use linoleum. I also wouldn't go with anything too big because this is going to be really modern again. And if you've been wanting to use these tiles, but you're not really sure how, let me run you through real quick. So when you go on these, you can see there are a whole bunch of swatches. Let's use the red ones because that's a nice clean column. So you're going to start with your corner swatch, which is the top one, and place that in your corners. You can rotate it using your comma and period keys to make sure that it's facing the right direction. Once you have your corners sorted out, you're going to grab the next one, which is your edge pieces. Once again, rotate it to make sure it's facing the right direction, and then click everywhere that you want that to be placed. Finally, you're going to take your filler piece and fill in the rest of your floor. Now, there is also an interior corner piece, so you'll be able to see it better if I place a little square. So you can see there's like a little square in the middle. So that's an interior corner. That's if you have to turn an interior corner. So that's how that flooring style works. And of course you can mix and match a little bit. For example, if maybe I wanted to have a little bit of design in my floor, I could place another square on the inside. Well, rectangle, you know what I'm saying. That's how you use that floor in case you've been wondering and you just weren't quite sure how to break into it. I am a creature of habit, so I think I'm going to stick with just wood in mine. It's my preference in any room of any house. I just really like hardwood floors. Also, I'm going to change out my stair color. I love making my stairs match my floors. It makes them look like they were all installed at the same time. Now that we've done floors, I suppose we should do doors. It seems to be pretty standard, just 4 or 6 panel hardwood doors. So that's what I'm mostly going to go with for my solid doors. And then for other interior doors, like into the sitting room where maybe you'd want something a little bit more open, the Strangerville doors are again absolutely lovely. Something with some glass windows in it or an arch. Strangerville again coming out with the win. Cats and dogs would be a really nice simple arch as well. This is one case where I probably wouldn't use the vampires one. That's going a little bit too gothic again. Now, because I do not have any of these lovely options for myself today, I'm going to go with my old reliable mega double doors. I'm going to go with symmetry wherever I can just because it is a big part of the build. Oh, I missed a floor. Whoopsies. There we go. So I'm going to have these symmetrical on either side. So I'm going to look at my base game doors. I'm going to grab a nice multi-panel door. Once again, Strangerville has an absolutely beautiful version, which we will not be using. I think I'm going to go with this nice 6-panel door. So I'll set that right across from my stairs. And I'll be using this for my bedrooms as well, and the bonus room because we don't know what we're doing with that. And I think I'll put one of these on the pantry as well. There we go. And then I think I'd like to use an archway through here. I don't really want to use this one. I just don't like it for this style. I'd rather use something square, so I might go with this one. It does have that transom there. I wish we had a double arch like that with the transom, but we do not, and it is a great tragedy. I might double it up anyway, just because I really, really do like that. All right, next up is wallpaper. You can do darn near whatever you want with wallpaper. Kind of the same with the flooring. Make sure it's not too modern. So like I would not use this or like stucco. I wouldn't go with the stucco thing either. Yeah, basically just stay away from anything too modern. Okay. Ooh, this might be a good opportunity to use some of these like super cool panels from the Modern Luxe kit, or this luxury party, I think is this one, or the vampires paneling. This would be a great opportunity to experiment with some of those. Pretty much if it has paneling and crown molding or baseboard and crown molding, you're good to go. But you can go absolutely wild with color. Like, do whatever you want, for real. I probably won't be going too wild with color because that's just not who I am as a person, but I want to make sure you know that you can. One habit I do have is placing wallpaper with paneling on it in rooms where furniture is frequently moved, such as a dining room or a bedroom. It just helps protect the integrity of the wall, which is, I mean, drywall's a little bit easier to replace, but with plaster and stuff, that is a mess. You don't want to replace it if you don't have to. Oh my goodness, did I forget to put a door here? I think I rely too heavily on streaming because you guys tell me immediately if I forget something there, and apparently I need that kind of support when I'm recording too. Anyway, but I will go with a tile of some sort, I think, in the bathrooms and kitchen because it's nice. Unfortunately, I'm really not a fan of most of our base game options, so this might be what we're getting. I'm a little bummed, but I'll just adjust the story in my head a little bit. Maybe these bathrooms were added more recently, and therefore they just have that slightly more modern tile. Now I do also want to add some railings or little fences around our stairs, and railings, I suppose. No, I don't like that. All right, we'll go with something a little bit more simple then. There we go. That'll work great. Now I get lost sometimes when I'm looking at railing as to what railing actually matches what fences we have. That looks right. All right, don't judge me too hard, okay? I went weird with the color outside. I did a whole green roof. I'm allowed to just go with basics on the inside. Speaking of basics, let's take a look at a basic kitchen layout. This isn't going to be anything too fancy, and I do have a pantry right here. Now, how you end up using your pantry is, of course, totally up to you. However, this is a great place to have, I don't know, a cupcake machine. That would fit really well in here, or just some counters with appliances. Let's see, usually for historical homes, I go with the escargot counter. However, this is a high-class home, so I think I'm going to go all the way over to the tall order vintage counter. I'm going to try and get something that matches some of the colors I already have going on. And I'm going to start by just doing some general space planning with these. I think we'll do a nice L, about like that. I might add a little peninsula over here or an island. First, I need to make sure that I have a space for a stove, which I already told you I'd be putting on this wall. I'm also going to switch this out for an end cabinet, like so. And I think I might actually put the refrigerator in the pantry. And we do, of course, still need a sink, which I will place right over here. I don't know much about sink design. I don't know what like a good vintage sink design is, so I'm gonna go with that one because it almost maybe sort of matches my stove. Any of these? Oh, I guess that one matches. All right, there we go. And I think I'd like to have an island, so I'll grab the same color combo here, and I'm going to do just the two outer corners as a little island there. I think that'll be nice. That leaves plenty of room for everybody to walk around in the kitchen, which is great. It leaves plenty of room for us to put a trash can over here, also great. And next, I'm going to look at upper cabinets. I'm going to use these tall cabinets, I think, in here, and then I can do these cabinets on this wall. So I'm going to start with one end cabinet here, and then do two of the quote-unquote normal cabinets, and then one more end cabinet here. And I think I'm going to put some cabinets out here as well, because honestly, why not? So normal cabinet, short cabinet, normal cabinet, and then I don't fancy that there, so we'll just do another end cabinet. Look at all those plates. And I'm going to place some appliances in here so we can add our dishwasher in here, so that's out of the way. We can add a microwave, we can add our coffee pot. I'm going to add a couple of bar stools. These feel way too fancy. I think I'm just going to go with something nice and simple there. It'd be very common to have a place to sit while you're in the dining room, either to chat or perhaps if you have some sort of service in your home, they would sit in there to eat. So we could put a little kitchen table there, or we could do the same thing over here. So that's our kitchen. Nothing too spectacular, but it is pretty big. And we could talk about bathroom layouts real quick as well. The half bath is going to be super duper easy. So we're just going to take a toilet. I'm going to take one of the fancy pants ones. We're going to grab a nice sink. Once again, trying to kind of match it to some of the wood tones we already have going on. As it'd be pretty common, you're building a home with local materials. You're probably going to be using the same lumber for the majority of that home. And I suppose I'll give them toilet paper. This one, we'll grab a nice old-fashioned tub over here. We'll grab our sink cabinet, our toilet, some toilet paper, Another mirror. I'm going to raise this up with 9 so we have a little bit of space there. And that's a bathroom. Now for this bathroom, this one is a little bit bigger, so we could probably do a separate shower and tub if we really wanted to. We could also do a double vanity here since this bathroom is being shared by 3 bedrooms. So I'm going to do 2 full-size cabinets and then 1 end cabinet. And then this would be like where you'd put toothbrushes or your little soaps or whatever. If you have laundry day, this would probably be a great bedroom to add the laundry system, bathroom to add the laundry system to. Pretty much more of the same. I think I'll give them one of these so that I can also put the toilet on this wall. There we go. And the toilet paper. And then have a couple of separate sinks here. It's a nice little Jack and Jill bathroom there. And our last bathroom is this one, which is quite large. If you're building a home or renovating a home that is this old, odds are there weren't bathrooms when it was built, so you'll have to either take part of a room off to make a bathroom or just take a whole bedroom and turn it into a bathroom. So if you've ever been in an old house and you're like, holy smokes, why is this bathroom so big? This is ridiculous. It was probably a bedroom at one point. Now, traditionally, before we move into landscaping, I always say, hey guys, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, liking the video, and leaving a comment about literally whatever. Tell me what you had for lunch today. I could use some inspiration. It does genuinely help. The engagement shows other people that this video is worth watching, and then they watch it and then they share it with their friends, and it's all good fun. So let's take a look at landscaping. I'm gonna go with symmetry a bit again because I like it and it works well with this style. As I mentioned earlier in the video, we are going to go with a more mature landscape. So we're going to want to keep the plants a little bit more closer together, geez. And I probably won't use as many shrunk plants as I usually do. I will often resize plants quite a bit and make a lot of them smaller, but I probably won't do that as much today. I'm also going to keep my overall like flowers to a little bit of a minimum, and I'm probably not going to go for the wild looking ones like the lavender as much. I'm going to go for something a little bit more contained. You could also just grab a hedge and put it all over everywhere and call it a day. I would support that. Hydrangeas are good. I also really like the sunrose bush personally. I think I'm going to go for some fairly muted colors here that are going to work well with the build. And of course, I'll be adding rocks as well. I'm just going to stick with the default rock color since we are in Newcrest today, and that matches fairly well. I'm still going to follow most of my same landscaping rules, so I'm still going to try to keep overall some odd numbers in play. It can be really easy to get all even numbers with symmetry, and I don't quite want to do that. And it won't be perfectly symmetrical either. I am keeping my thumb on Alt, and then to place multiple of the same object, I will be holding Shift and Alt at the same time. I think I'm probably going to put a tree there, and I might put a tree over here as well. I'm going to put in a few flowers here. I will scale a couple of them down, but I really want most of them to look like they've been here for a while. They've really grown in. So we're not like perfectly symmetrical, but we're pretty close. I think that'll work pretty well. Now, before I add my smaller flowers, I do want to go in with rocks, and I will be sizing some of these up to make them into boulders because I can. And that is enough of a reason for me. And I'll go in with these flowers as well. If you're interested about my landscaping method, I have multiple pretty long videos about landscaping. Also, I just realized I placed these out of order. I should have placed the taller one next. I'm gonna have to go through and rearrange a little bit. Anyway, so I have one about like super duper beginner landscaping. I have one about cottage style landscaping, which is quite dissimilar to what we're doing here, but I go into why that's the case and how that even became a style in the first place. And I also have one about forests. Oops. So if you want your lot to look like trees have been growing on it for a while, but also if you just spam place a bunch of trees, it's not looking quite right, that video might help out with that. All right, now I do not have vines, although I would love to put some up. So instead what we're going to do is add some trees. They will still add some of that, like some of the overgrown, there's green here, breaking up some of the build. It'll add that same flair. And to pick which trees I want, I'm going to take a look at the world, see what I've got. Looks like I have some evergreen and oak over here and some willow trees, so I've got a few that I can choose from. Here's the oak tree. It's a little big for this side of the lot, but I think it could look really nice over here. I'm just going to rotate it so it's sort of leaning away from the house to give me a little bit more space. Put a couple of evergreens over here. I'm resizing with my bracket keys. I might be able to put a larger one in the backyard though. Yeah, I like that. I like that little bit of green swooping around the side. It's got a little bit of a curve to it. It sort of mimics the curve of the roof. I think that's pretty nice. Now let's talk about the tower and the roof. I swear I put wallpaper there. There we go. Alrighty, so if we grab a door, any old door, we have two options for reaching this door. We can put stairs next to it and hope that that works, or we can actually lower the platform on this side and then put a door there and add stairs outside, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to press Control to remove this platform, and now I can, hello? That was weird. Let's try it again. I'm going to press Control to remove this platform, and I should be able to put a door here. There we go. Anyway, I should be able to put a door here, and then I can add stairs. Now, they are sort of clipping in here, but I have a solution for that. If you go back to your platform trims and you grab one that's like doesn't have the trim on it, like this one, and then you hold shift, it'll only place it on one wall at a time, so that will solve that problem. And then as far as rooftop coverings, I mean, you want something that the rain isn't going to ruin, obviously. This would be a little bit of a water hazard. We're going to pretend that they have like the world's best drainage system in place because the game has some limitations. We're going to play pretend, and I think I'm going to grab some tiles, possibly tiles or some sort of concrete for up here. Concrete isn't stone, by the way, in case you're wondering. I've got high style. I've got where the rubber hits the road, so this would be a more traditional roofing material look. I also have, where is it, sidewalk slabs, which is just slabs of concrete. This is pretty nice. This would also reflect heat, which is great, so you wouldn't burn your feet off every time you came up to hang out. And you can add whatever outdoor activities you want to up here. Let's see, we need to do some terrain paint, and we also have to fix the lighting inside, because I'm not going to leave those big ugly lights in there for you guys. Let's do terrain paint first, though. We'll grab some dirt. I like to use Smarter Starter soil. I put my brush to about here, and then I paint under absolutely anything that touches the ground. So that includes the path, the foundation, all of my landscaping. Speaking of path, if you ever do want to add a path, for example, if we wanted to add a nice little path going around this way, I would paint with dirt first and then go through with your gravel or whatever. I find that that gives a much more natural look to the path, and it looks a lot less like you just threw gravel onto the grass. It looks like the gravel has been there for a while. And if you want a little extra touch of realism underneath your evergreens, we do actually have this, Scratchy and Patches, which sort of looks like dropped green pine needles. And we also have this Pine Duff, which is dropped dead pine needles. I'm going to grab some gravel to put on my path here, so I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller and a little bit less soft, and then start painting that gravel in. Usually I would also add filler plants, which is usually something like this, or some of the daisies or something, and I'm on the fence about it here because I really want this to look well maintained. I feel like this doesn't support that as well. So I think for once, I might actually skip that today. If you feel like it still needs a little something something, you can totally go for it and add some more flowers or plants or whatever, but I'm pretty satisfied with that. I'm going to go through and fix all these lights, and while I do that, I'm going to do a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad thing. I'm going to do a little bit more self-promotion, because if you've made it this far in the video and you'd like to support the channel more, I do have memberships on YouTube. For the 99-cent tier, you get some emotes and a few occasional bonus videos, basically stuff that I post on TikTok that's not already on YouTube. And if you upgrade to the Gable tier, which is $5 a month, you get early access or extended versions of all of my other videos. For example, the current video that you're watching is this long, but if you were a Gable member, you would have gotten access to the video early, and it would have been the first cut of the video, which means it's this long, which is this much more content. I know it's not for everybody, and not everybody can, and if you can't, please don't feel bad. I just completely forget to mention it, and I thought of it, so I'm going to mention it here. And I am just sticking with these lights because it's this or chandeliers, and I hate the base game chandeliers. What I would recommend instead is that you check out the linked Pinterest board in the video description down below, because I've literally, gosh, how many do I have now? Like 160 pins on this board or something, and I'll probably add more before the video is up. And a lot of them are exteriors, of course, but there are a lot of interior shots as well. So if you want to go through and furnish and you want some inspiration, I highly recommend checking that board out, because none of these lights are doing it for me, and I'd rather just leave the little can lights so you can see and add your own flair as you see fit. Now, something else that I've been thinking about adding to the end of the videos is actually my uploading process. Because a lot of people ask, like, hey, how do we upload builds and what should we use hashtags or whatever? So let's talk about that. Because this is not a complete build, I am going to add shell to the title. Shell is a very common keyword. I'm also going to go with the most common name, which is either Second Empire or Mansard. I'm going to go with Second Empire on this one because that's what I'm titling the video. So Second Empire Shell is what I'm naming it. That is easy to search, easy to find, clearly identifies exactly what you're getting. As far as hashtags, if your build is base game only, always lead with that one. Also, please only use hashtag base game if it is base game only, because we all know you use the base game. You literally can't build anything without the base game, so hashtagging it along with the other packs, it doesn't make any sense, and it makes finding base game builds very difficult for other players. So base game only is definitely a top hashtag. Shell is a good hashtag to list first, and the reason you list these first is because they'll actually show up under the thumbnail when you're scrolling through the gallery, so that's why you want to like prioritize. So I'm going to add some other hashtags such as base game, and all of the additional names of this style. I'm also going to add some hashtags relating to the size, such as mansion, 10 bed, and 10 bedroom, especially since this only goes up to 9. I think this would count as a family home. It's definitely big enough. I also like adding move-in ready and floor plan because that lets people know that there is already a floor plan, but no like furniture or anything, which is accurate. Also, gosh darn it. Going through these, this is another reason to check before you upload. The trees are really blocking our view here, so we're probably going to want to change those. I don't want to type these all again though, so I'm going to copy and paste them over into my Word document. So this tree is too big and this tree is too big. So what I'm going to do, because I do still like this tree, is I'm just going to place it over here instead. And then for this tree here, I'll just swap it out with something smaller and clearly decorative. Perhaps a llama. I'll think about the llama. Or I could take one of these and just scale it down all the way, and that makes, well, almost all the way. We'll try this one. That's a nice decorative looking tree. We're just going to pretend that I already remembered that I was going to put trees over here. Hopefully, this is just a nice reminder that I am not a professional. I am a hobbyist. I don't know everything. I don't remember everything all the time, and that is totally okay. If you guys know more than me and you know better than me, please let me know in the comments down below. Now, if you have like links and resources, I love seeing those. You can't see them in the comments because they won't post for YouTube security reasons. Hopefully that's fairly obvious, but I will still get to see them. And if it is a good link or a good research article or whatever, I will definitely put it on my Pinterest board or wherever else I may be holding information. So now you know. Cool beans. So we'll do one last check through these. I can see. Fabulous, fabulous. Second Empire shell. I will add a little bit of a description here. And one last check for spelling. And finally, we'll save it to our library. View item details, make sure that we didn't accidentally use a pack that we didn't mean to use, and now it's good to go in the gallery. Booyah! Hopefully you enjoyed building with me today. I know I always enjoy building with you. Don't forget to check out the Pinterest board linked down below for tons more images that I wasn't able to fit in this video, as well as the original resources. Again, the Build Like a Nerd style video is all about finding the balance between realism and what's possible in the game, so some things may be changed or omitted just because it's going to work better for the video that way. If you have questions, please leave them down below. Highly recommend the Italianate style if you haven't already clicked that video because it's been on the screen for a second, and I really look forward to building with you all again very soon. Bye!